We've all been there, right? We've all wished somebody else could send an email on our behalf or that somebody else could make a phone call for us because we just didn't want to pick up the phone and do it ourselves. How many times have you had to follow up with a seller, and every time you do, the phone gets heavier and heavier and heavier? Or maybe you made a mistake on your offer and the numbers, and now you have to renegotiate and start that renegotiation process early on or later on in the process. Don't you wish somebody else could just take on that responsibility for you so that you didn't have to do it? Well, I'm going to show you a quick hack on how to have this happen without having to add anybody to your team, without adding any additional cost to your bottom line, and being able to offset some of the fear that comes from sending emails and having those conversations, as well as um, sending follow-up emails consistently to your seller leads. We all know that follow-up is really important, right? We all know that we have to do it time and time again in order to get the deals. They say that most sales and most agreements happen after the 5th to 12th touch. That means you have to have somebody tell you no at minimum 4 times before you're going to come to an agreement with that person. And now, if you're doing that on a larger scale, if you don't have systems in place, you are very likely going to give into that emotion of feeling like defeated and feeling like they're just going to say no. And what's going to happen is it's going to be put off. That's a task that's going to be put off a day, a week, a month. And then soon enough, it's just not going to happen. So how do we get over this, right? There's a couple things that you can do. One is having the right automation in place, making sure that you have follow-up plans that are automated. Also, your emails. Have you read the emails that are in your system? The emails that are there, you can use for follow-up. And those follow-ups should sound like they're coming from you and your company. But what happens if you read them and it just doesn't sound like you? Doesn't mean that it's bad content. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the actual emails that are there. It just doesn't feel like you. So what do? Without having to spend a lot of time, without having to spend a lot of money, what can you do to get these automated follow-up systems in place today? It's as simple as this. Create a PAT. A what? A PAT, right? Have you ever heard of Pat Live? Every single one of their representatives answers the phone and says that their name is Pat, because that's who you're talking to when you call Pat Live. Well, create yourself a Pat. Create an email address, an alias on your domain that's pat@yourdomain.com. Now, when you go into REI Blackbook, you can set up a marketing profile for Pat. You can give Pat a last name. You can give Pat the email address. You can give Pat a phone number. And then you can set up all your automated follow-ups to come from Pat. You can also use Pat as the alias of when you're talking to sellers. Or if you're using Pat Live, they're already talking with Pat when they give out the information about their property. So communicating with your seller leads from this email address is no big deal. It's not anything that any seller would blink an eye at. But it allows you to not have the pressure of making sure an email comes from you at yourdomain.com and sounds exactly like something you would say. So here's how you create it. Go into your domain, go into your G Suite, create an alias, pat@yourdomain.com, then go into REI Blackbook, create a marketing profile for pat@yourdomain.com, along with the email and phone number as discussed, and then create your emails, set them to come from Pat's marketing profile, and create any ringless voicemails you want or have somebody else create it for you. Do you know that there are people that will create your ringless voicemails so that you can use them in your business? And so now it doesn't even have to be you on the voicemails. So make sure you have a Pat on your team to help alleviate the pressure, to help communicate and facilitate your communications with your sellers, and take the pressure off yourself. Hope you have a great day.